To Love Her Stallion by JJJ. I've always loved your eyes. Cadance smiled as her husband blushed at her compliment, her words being just one of her many tools of seduction. Her silky coat on his skin, her soft body on his chest, her warm breath on his face. With each sensation, Shining found himself being ensnared in her web. The power of love and lust was not something Cadance took lightly. She knew how the pair can be used to easily hurt others. She knew the weapons of the trade, how her feminine curves could conquer his libido, how her praises could conquer his heart. The power she wielded could be used for both good and evil, and Cadance made sure everything else she was doing was with Shining's feelings in mind. She knew that she was manipulating Shining, earning his trust so that he could lower his guard. Vulnerability opens you up to being hurt as well as being healed, and she knew that she had to be careful with him. Shining turned his head away from his wife, finding the eye contact a bit more embarrassing than he wanted to admit. He was surprised when Cadance pushed him onto the bed and held him down with her body. She was never one to be forceful when it came to sex. He was enjoying the erotic feeling of her pressing down on him, but when she complimented his eyes, it made him feel self-aware and awkward. It took all of her might not to frown at Shining. It was those terrible feelings of his, those insecurities that plagued him that bothered her so deeply. Shining was always good at hiding his pain, hiding the fact that he grimaced every time he looked in the mirror, hiding the jealous look he gave the new, younger recruits. Even the most confident of stallions could still feel ugly on the inside. He always believed that his anxieties paled in comparison to the needs of others and resigned himself to suffer in silence. But Cadance was not the princess of love for nothing. She could always spot a lover's pain, regardless of how well it was hidden. She could see the self-loathing in his face, the burden of his low self-image dulling his once cheery personality. A part of her felt proud that he would always put the needs of others above his own. A part of her felt saddened that he believed his needs didn't deserve the same love and respect as every pony else. And a large part of her felt shame that it took her so long to see the pain. Sometimes in life, you want to feel loved, and sometimes in life, you want to feel lusted. Shining was well aware of that. Cadance loved him, but didn't truly understand the depths of how attracted she was to him. He was her husband, and he absolutely deserved to know that he was the handsomest stallion on the face of the planet. She grasped his head with one of her hooves, gently making him face her. She saw those kind eyes of his quickly lock with hers before darting away. Shining's insecurities convincing him that she could see how dull and ugly he looked. "They're nothing impressive," he replied. "But they are, my love," Cadance said, smiling as her words caused Shining to maintain eye contact. "I know you don't think they're beautiful, that those soft blue eyes of yours aren't special, but you have no idea how often I lose myself in them. How my heart skips a beat when we gaze into each other. How hot they make me feel when I see you staring at me." Shining was stunned. He was feeling emotions that a part of him couldn't place down. Pride? Self-confidence? He was not sure, but whatever they were made him feel good. But self-doubt is one powerful beast, and a large chunk of him didn't believe those words she spoke. "You're just saying that," he muttered. Cadance kept her smile on her face. She knew that persuading him that he was amazing would be tough. But she was not going to give up on him. She knew if she truly wanted to succeed, she just had to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more convincing, a little bit more dominant. A plan formed. "Shining, my love, who am I exactly?" she asked, her voice taking on a somewhat girly tone. Shining raised an eyebrow at the question. "You're my wife," he said. "And what else? The Princess of Love? Celestia's niece? I don't really know what you're asking me." Cadance's smile took on a more predatory nature. "My dear shining armor, did you forget? I am the princess of the Crystal Empire. More importantly, I'm your princess. The one you serve, the one you obey." Cadance's voice grew huskier with each word, more seductive with each passing breath. Shining could feel the lust dripping from every sentence she spoke. She could feel him slowly grow hard as his demure wife's new dominant nature. "And your princess is demanding your submission." With a flash of Cadance's horn, Shining felt their bedspread tie itself around his hooves. He found his legs pinned down. "Now that I have you exactly where I want you, I feel like playing a little game, one that I know you'll enjoy. Do you trust me, love?" Cadance asked. Shining wasn't sure what was going on. He felt a mix of arousal and fear at the situation he was in. But he knew Cadance would never hurt him. And he was curious at what exactly his wife's plan was. Thus, Shining simply nodded yes. "Oh, how wonderful. Here's the rule of the game. I'm going to ask you something, and you are going to answer me. If I think you're telling me the truth, you'll get a reward. You like that, wouldn't you?" Shining's nervousness rose quickly, worried about revealing any sort of embarrassing information. Cadance saw the slight grimace on his face and quickly calmed his nerves. "Don't you worry, my pet. I won't pry into anything you wish to keep private. Trust me, my questions will be surprisingly tame." Shining felt the tension in his chest ease, and quietly stuttered, Oh, okay. What's the first question?" Cadance grinned at his compliance and asked, "Tell me, what do you think about your face?" The question confused Shining. "My face? She's going to ask me about my face?" he thought. Um, uh, um, I don't know. It's just kind of there on my head. I don't really understand the question." "Tell me how you feel about your face. Do you like it?" Shining's heart tightened. He didn't know what his wife was playing at, but he didn't want to admit the fact that he really didn't like any part of his appearance. There was something humiliating about speaking about how disgusted he was with himself. "Come on, Shining. Do you like your face or not? Be honest." Cadance spoke, her voice taking on a more empathetic tone. She saw the struggle on her husband's face. She knew he didn't want to admit anything to her, but she silently hoped he would share with her his pains. After a short while, Shining turned his head away from his wife and quietly whispered, "No. Progress." Cadance thought. "What exactly don't you like about it?" Shining paused, his stare focused on a spot across the room. "Everything," he said. "My lips are small, my nose is big, my horn is crooked. I just look weird." The faintest trace of tears began to appear in his eyes. I don't know what you see in me." Cadance's heart almost broke, but her mind knew with his confession she could help him. She could take his pain away. With one hoof, she pulled his head to face her while the other stroked his hair. She spoke. "Your lips are beautiful. Kissing you is one of the greatest things in the world. Every time I see you smile, I fall in love with you all over again. You have no idea how often I've touched myself to the thought of those lips against me. How, before we were dating, I silently wished they were on my skin. She drew herself closer down towards him. You have no idea how lucky I feel knowing that you belong to me. She placed her lips against his, enjoying the warmth pouring from his skin. The kiss, though chaste, both calmed down Shining's pain while feeding his arousal. Cadance cooed at the feeling of those small lips, and took great delight in parting them away with her tongue. Shining formed the intrusion, slowly pushing back against his wife, almost teasingly. Cadance would have none of it, however. She pushed hard against him, storming his mouth with force. She twirled and lapped, making her lust abundantly clear to her husband. She knew that it wasn't enough to tell him that she wanted him. He had to feel it. The tongue play was having an effect on Shining. He felt himself getting more and more turned on by the second. He felt Cadance moan into his mouth. His body shuddered at the erotic noise. Cadance pulled herself away as both of them gasped for air. She could feel his cock harden more, which spurred her on to keep up with her plan. As for that nose of yours, I've always found it cute. My favorite part of the day has always been getting to boot that lovable snout. With that said, she gave a quick boot with her hoof before giving his nose a kiss. A small smile rose on Shining's face, though sadness still remained in his eyes. And your horn, crooked, it looks perfectly fine. I'm always impressed, seeing the magic you can do with it. How proud I am whenever you use it to keep us safe. The words sang in Shining's ear. A slight blush reddened his face. But what fills me with so much glee is how sensitive it is. And with a mischievous look on her face, Cadance grasped Shining's horn, eliciting a gasp from the stallion. I remember how giddy I was when I discovered what touching it did to you. How good I could make you feel. And I've always enjoyed making you feel good. Cadance stroked his horn, causing Shining to squirm and shudder. And I've always enjoyed the noise you made when I do this. Cadance gave the tip a long, wet lick. Shining groaned as his back arched at the touch. Cadance drew him into her mouth, bathing him in erotic swirls while she descended deeper towards him. Once Cadance had his entire length inside her, she rhythmically bobbed her head up and down. Shining bit his lips, trying not to let the sensations completely take over him. Cadance was loving every second of this. The hardness of the tip, the magical fluid that leaked out onto her tongue, the whimpers and squeaks of her husband. But she knew that her work was not yet complete. With great pain, she pulled herself off of him, quickly replacing her real mouth with a magical one which happily sucked away at his length. She stared him in the eyes and said, "Oh, how I've missed doing this. You really should ask me to do it more. You know what? Don't even bother. Whenever we're not in public, I'm going to make it a point to play with that thing. Hell, why not in public? Your horn is far too amazing not to touch." Shining was wide-eyed at what his wife was saying. He never believed she enjoyed playing with his horn. He always thought it disgusted her as much as it disgusted him. Cadance knew that she was making headway with him, and was going to press the advantage while she had it. She placed kisses down his cheek and jaw, stopping short of his neck. "Now, tell me, Shining, how do you feel about your neck?" Shining, still squirming from the magical horn job he was getting, stuttered out, I've always felt it was too big." She bent down and nibbled on the side of his neck, causing a soft squeak out of her husband. "More to love," Cadance said. She kissed down his throat, placing several long laps to his Adam's apple. She slowly descended, reaching the divot at the base of his neck. She tongued the small crevice and smiled widely as Shining moaned at the touch. After giving his neck another flurry of kisses, she rose herself up to face him. She could feel herself becoming more and more turned on by what she was doing. But she knew this wasn't for her. This was for him. She rubbed her hoof across his chest, enjoying the softness of his coat. "Now, Shining, tell me about the rest of you. What don't you like?" Shining was lost in a haze of pleasure, his confidence slowly growing with every one of Cadance's ministration. He never knew she saw him this way. He never knew she lusted after him so much. With each confession, he felt the weight on his shoulders drop. He felt his shame die down. But he knew his insecurities ran deep, and there was still much he had to admit to Cadance. "I don't look as strong as I used to. My chest isn't as big, my belly isn't as small. I keep comparing myself to all the other stallions in the guard. I don't think I could compete with any of them." Cadance wanted to say that she didn't care about any of those things, but she realized that wouldn't help. She had to tell him what she liked about him so he could realize that there was something worth liking. She rested her head on his chest while rubbing her hoof across his barrel. "Your chest has always been my favorite place to rest my head. I've loved hearing your heartbeat in my ears. No pillow has ever given me as many peaceful nights as you." She began kissing and nibbling at his chest, tickling his tummy every now and then. "You've always asked why I seem so tired in the morning. Well, I must confess that whenever you fall asleep, I spend far too many hours just watching that tummy of yours rise and fall. You've always looked so peaceful, so happy, laying there." She placed more and more kisses down his body, stopping at whatever spot made Shining groan the most. "And may I remind you that there is only one stallion on the planet who the Princess of Love wants to share her bed with, and it sure isn't those other colts in the guard." Shining's moan were adding to her own lust, spurring on her sexual caresses. She finished her slow march of kisses down to the top of his crotch. She rose up and admired his cock. It harder than she had ever seen it. Rivers of pre-cum poured from its tip. His shaft was soaked slick with his lust. She saw Shining open his mouth and begin to speak, but she placed her hoof on his lips. She looked her husband dead in the eyes. She knew that he was definitely insecure about his equipment, but she wasn't going to allow him to say it. "No," Cadance begun. "I don't want you to tell me what you think of it. I don't ever want to hear you talk badly about that cock of yours. It has brought me far too much pleasure for it to ever be disrespected. Every single time I've had to go away, I would spend my nights touching myself to the thoughts of it. Do you want to know how many of my fantasies involve that amazing penis? All of them. I don't want you to ever think that of your cock as anything other than extraordinary." She stood up so Shining could look at her pussy. Look at how wet I am. Look at how wet you made me. This entire night my pussy has been aching to plunge herself right onto you." Shining watched as her cunt dripped onto his cock, each splash teasing his painfully hard penis. Cadance's lust took over her body, and she plunged herself down onto Shining. The both of them moaned in unison. Cadance at the liberating feeling of being filled, Shining at the tightness of her against his cock. Cadance pumped herself up and down his length, rising right up to the very tip before slamming her way back down. The sounds of the room filled with soft squishes of the princess's cunt, the hard smack of Shining's balls on her rump, the duet of moans as they both neared climax. But Cadance wasn't done telling Shining all about her feelings. "Do you see, my love? Do you see? Do you see how hot you make me? How horny I get at just the sight of you? How good you make me feel." Shining was lost in the sensation of Cadance's pistoning. He's never felt more attractive, more masculine than at this point. Cadance bit her lips as Shining's cock flared out within her. Her orgasm got closer and closer with each one of his thrusts. But Cadance had far more to confess. "Shining, oh God, Shining, you've always owned my heart, but you always own my body. You're everything to me. Every single one of my thoughts are of you. Every single one of my fantasies are of you." She pumped herself harder and faster, feeling herself reach the very tip of the edge of climax. She grabbed Shining's face and gently spoke. "I'm your princess, and you are my king." She pushed her lips against his, and with one final plunge, she came. The tightness of her walls were too much for Shining. His balls clenched as he fired jet after jet of cum deep within her tight pussy. Cadance stayed on top of him for a while, riding the waves of pleasure out. She undid her magical bindings, and with much displeasure pulled his rod out of her. She was surprised at how she didn't feel his cum pour out of her. He must have came deep within. She fell deep to his side, and was quickly pulled into an embrace. Shining had never felt better than at that very moment. He never felt more attractive than he did right there. The fear, the disgust, the self-loathing was all gone. For the first time in months, he wasn't plagued by his insecurities. He giggled at the soft nuzzling of his wife's snout against his chest. He's never felt luckier in his life to have someone like her. He looked down at her, giving her snout a quick peck before saying thank you. Cadance smiled up at him and said, "I'm glad to see a real smile on your face, my love. But we both know that those thoughts of yours might come back. I want you to be more open with me, Shining. I want to be able to help you with whatever you're facing. I meant every word I said tonight. And I'll do whatever it takes to show you how much I care for you. How much I love you." Shining simply smiled back at Cadance, pulling her tighter into his embrace. He knew she was right, that this respite for his self-doubt was temporary. But he knew that when those feelings came back up, he wouldn't have to face them alone. And with that comforting thought in his head, he slept. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. You know what? It's my first Cadance Shining fic. I think it's the first time I've ever done Cadance. So yeah. Trust me, I will never ever do like a female voice or even attempt to do it in one of these readings because it sounds terrible. No, it's not good. Not good at all. I mean, the closest I can come to like sounding like a girl is Anita. Oh, what are we doing the bed? Yeah, shit. I know it's terrible. Oh man, it's not like that. What's it? Sky Pegasus guy who can go from this. Oh, Cadance. Cadance. Shit. What did he say? Cadance snuggled her snout against his belly button or some stupid shit like that, and then go. Or like. I hope you're not listening, man, because that's my impression of you. Oh man, he's gonna fucking punch me if he ever listens to this shit. Although I don't think he listens to my readings. If you do, man. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the fic. It's more touchy feely because some of you seem to really like sunshine and whiskey. So yeah. For the next few days, in the next few days, I'll be uploading the rest of the commission stuff. So after this, I will be completely free. I will have no more commissions left, and that would also mean I would be broke, and I have nothing left on my PayPal. Well, I got what I wanted at the end, so I'm really thankful for that. So we're also approaching 4K subscribers. Awesome. I mean, I'm only like 3K away at this point. Not 3K, 3K, 300 away at this point. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm wondering what I should do though, because 4K is kind of an achievement. I don't know. It's not. It's not really. I mean, in the grand scale of things, it's not. But for me, it's something, man. It's just thinking about it. Just having 4,000 people. It's a staggering number. And also, I think it would make me the third most third most subscribed. Actually, no, it wouldn't even come out. Well, whatever. I would be just under Scarlet Blade or Captain Sands. I still don't know. I would just be under him by like 500. So that would be pretty sweet. I mean, imagine, man. Imagine if I overtook him or something. That would be crazy. That would be insane. That would be incredible. But I've been really getting into One Punch Man lately. It's I can't explain fully right now why I love the show so much, but I think it's a combination of how nonchalant the main character Saitama is, and his different approach to being a hero. I mean, he's still very much a hero in every single regards, but he's not. He doesn't have that normal shonen quality of having to really work towards being a strong. He's instantly strong. He's the strongest thing in the whole universe of this anime, and it's a really interesting dynamic because every single villain he has gone up against so far, it's a reflection of him in some way. It's always a question of it could have been him. That's what I think makes the show really cool, is that it explores. He's very much the central character of the anime and the manga, and every other character is in some way just an offshoot of what he could have been. Like that really big giant guy. He claimed that he was the strongest in the world, and he understood that being strong just felt really hollow. It's like, all right, I mean, I can't. It sounds like I can't really put into words, but I mean I will at some point. But right now, it's imagine if you be a kid at football, right? It's not an amazing achievement. Everyone expects you to be him. There's nothing impressive about it. But if the kid was a giant sea monster king thing, then well, it questions that line in shonen anime, and I really like that. The comedy is pretty good. It's good comedy. It's well paced. It's pretty well paced, and I think just the animation alone makes it worth watching. I mean, just the history behind the show is really interesting to me, and I've been hooked. I've just binged it one night, and well, damn man, I want more One Punch Man. One Punch Man. One